all for joining us this morning. My name is Dr. Sophie Shutter. I am an aesthetic and wellness doctor, I guess. So my background is in the NHS, but for 13 years now, I've been working in this space. I'm very, very keen on how we age, both inside and out. And it's my absolute pleasure today to be talking with Dr. Nicola Conlon, who is a dear friend and also founder of an incredible supplement brand called NAD, which we'll talk about a little bit. But actually, Nicola is has a PhD, so she's a doctor of cellular health, and also a fountain of knowledge about all things longevity. Should we shut that door? That's a little bit quieter. A fountain of knowledge about all things longevity. So beyond just NAD+. So we're going to talk, how many of you out of interest in the room have heard of NAD+? Yeah, amazing. And how many of you are supplementing in some way, shape or form to boost your levels? Perfect. Okay, so almost everyone knows about or has heard of it, and maybe about a quarter are taking something to boost NAD+ levels at the moment. So yeah, Nicola and I have known each other for several years now, since you very first launched NAD. I'm not sure how many years ago that is now.
Well, we launched it in 2017,
yeah.
So quite a while.
And I've been taking it personally for probably not far off that now. So I guess let's start with, what is NAD+, and why is it so important for us from a health perspective?
Yeah, well, thank you for the wonderful introduction, Sophie. And for me, honestly, it's so exciting to sit in this room and see how many people actually put their hands up when that question was asked, what is NAD? Because it wasn't that many years ago that I would have asked the same question at the beginning of the talk and it would have been like silence, like everyone's like, NA what? So the fact that we're now hearing about it a lot more is really exciting for me. It definitely has become a buzzword, but it also means that there's a lot of education to do, because a lot of people have heard of it, but they still really don't know what it is or why it's important. So basically, looking at it from a scientific perspective, NAD is something that is a natural molecule, first of all. It's something that is naturally found in every single cell in our bodies. So although we're talking about restoring NAD or taking NAD supplementation, this is not putting something artificial into your body that wasn't already there. It's trying to boost levels of a natural molecule. And basically, NAD, it performs many different functions in our cells. In fact, it performs around 300 different reactions. So very, very critical. But the two things that it's, I guess, most famous for are, first of all, our energy production. So in our cells, we have our mitochondria. They are literally like the energy factories that produce all the energy that we need to function. And NAD is absolutely critical for helping that conversion of our food into our energy. The other thing that it's very famous for is repair. So in this capacity, what NAD does is it basically acts like a fuel for a lot of the repair processes in our cells. So our cells are constantly being damaged, they're constantly needing to fix themselves. And we have an army of repair proteins that are in our bodies going around making sure that all this damage is fixed. And NAD literally acts like a fuel to power a lot of those repair processes. So absolutely critical for cellular health.
And if we didn't have any NAD+,
we'd literally be dead.
Exactly. So
like
in
30 seconds,
oxygen.
we'd be dead. It's absolutely crucial because it's involved in metabolism, energy conversion. Literally, we could not survive without it. That's how critical it is in our bodies.
So you touched on energy levels and repair, but how can people tell if you're deficient?
So what we know is that NAD naturally declines with age, and its decline is really linked to a lot of the things that we experience on the inside as the aging process. So as you get older, your NAD will be getting lower. It's estimated to halve every 20 years. So this is from birth. So even by the time you're 20, you've got half the amount of NAD that you were born with. And it's something that is difficult to measure, but the things that you would feel if you have low NAD are things like a lack of energy. So this could be a lack of physical energy, or it could be a lack of energy in terms of cognitive function. So as NAD goes down, we start to experience things like brain fog and mental fatigue. We also start to see that our bodies just don't quite function as well and recover as well as they used to. So if you think of a young child running around, they've got super amounts of energy, even if they haven't slept, they can fall over, they can cut the knee, it repairs, everything is just working as it should be. As NAD starts to decrease, because our cells don't have that capacity to create energy and also repair, those processes also start to slow down. So we get the tiredness, the lack of stamina, the brain fog, the taking ages to recover from, just one night lack of sleep or illness or, our skin healing. They're all signs that NAD is lower. And probably good to point out that it's not just our age that depletes NAD, it's also our lifestyles. So we know lifestyle, anything that we know is bad for us. Excessive alcohol, sunburn for our skin, smoking, inflammatory diet, all of those things will speed up that rate of NAD depletion as well.
And that certainly fits with what I see. I treat a lot of midlife, particularly women, around perimenopause, who are coming in, maybe even 35 upwards, who are coming in and experiencing symptoms that they're attributing to age. And of course, aging is inevitable, but how we age no longer is predetermined, which is exciting. And I think for most people, that NAD decline, even though by 20 we in principle got half of what we had at birth, by 40 it's becoming quite clinically significant. And for most women, the real deficiency overlaps with perimenopause, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. So NAD declines in everyone. It declines in both men and women, and both men and women will get the symptoms of low NAD that I've just discussed. But in women in particular, we've kind of got a double whammy, because all of those things that I've just described that our NAD is important for, also some of our hormones play a similar role. So for example, estrogen, that's very important for energy production in our cells. So in women, around perimenopause and menopause age, we're hit with this double whammy where not only is our NAD declining, impacting our energy production, our levels of inflammation, brain fog, things like that, we've also got our estrogen declining, which is also impacting cellular health in terms of our energy production, repair, and things like that. So that is why you get these two things come together, and almost it's like the perfect storm for cellular chaos in our bodies, which is why we get this vast array of symptoms during perimenopause. So we do find that a lot of women going through this transition in their life do benefit from boosting NAD as well, because it kind of eliminates half the problem.
It's definitely one of the biggest groups I recommend it in. And although we talk a lot about women and hormone decline, I will also say that I think male hormone decline isn't talked about enough. It's something I think we'll talk about more and more over the coming years, and male testosterone levels declining. It's happening. The average levels of testosterone in a man now are much lower than they were in a man of the same age going back 50 years. So we have a problem happening there as well. It's just that for women, we have this real cliff edge moment where everything, as you described, cellular chaos, whereas with men, it tends to be a more gradual process. But they still experience a lot of issues. So is there a way of quantifying how much NAD we need to be at our best, to have peak performance?
So NAD is something you can measure in a lab. So when we run clinical trials, there are ways of measuring it, but this is not something yet that the average consumer can pick up as a test and do themselves at home. So it's difficult to measure, but what we know is that in all the big population studies that have been done, it declines as you age. So what we generally say is that most people, generally over the age of 35, will be going towards an NAD deficiency. And that's when you start to feel these signs of aging. And one area that we do like to use as a bit of a surrogate marker for our levels of NAD is something called a biological age test. Has anyone heard of biological age or biological age testing? Yeah, okay. So our biological age is literally the age we are on the inside at a cellular level, opposed to our chronological age, which is the age that we are according to our birth certificates. And what we know is that cellular health, and it is very important for our biological age. And this is where things like NAD come in, because if we don't have NAD in our cells that are not contributing towards repair and energy production and things like that, our cellular health declines and it pushes our biological age up. So you see that as NAD declines, our biological age gets older. So it's been the studies, and indeed studies that we've conducted looking at biological age and showing that by increasing NAD, you can actually reverse biological aging. So NAD is really all about looking at aging on the inside, looking at what's going on in our cells and improving cellular health so that you can literally reverse the age of your cells on the inside.
Which I think is a concept we're going to, this is where medicine is going, and whether it's, whether you, and have any of you read anything by Peter Attia, his concept of medicine 3.0? I mean, for me, this being proactive about how we age from a young age with lifestyle measures, that gives us the impact to have a better health span rather than just living longer, for me is the future. That's where this is all going. And I guess on that note, what's your biological age?
So my biological age is 20, but I am in fact 37. So I mean, it would be pretty bad. I was quite worried when I did the test, because given that I am an expert in longevity, I was like, oh my God, what happens if it comes back really bad? And then I've just put all over social media, I'm doing this test and I'm like 50. But luckily it came back good. So, for me, it's not just about supplementation, it's not just about NAD, it's about all the different healthy lifestyle practices that I incorporate into my routine. There's a lot of things that are being shown to help reverse biological age, and many people believe that aging is all to do with your genetics. People blame it on the parents and say, oh, well, it's, my genes of my mum and dad and there's nothing I can do about it. But actually, we know now that plays less than 20% in how well we will age. The other 80% is actually our lifestyle. So things like diet, exercise, introducing practices like fasting, cold plunge, sauna, all of these things actually have so much data and studies coming out now to show they really can literally make you age backwards. And I think that's why I'm always so excited to have been involved in this longevity space for the last decade now, because the data and the studies that are coming out, this is the first time in human history that we now know that aging is something that you can reverse. Because up until now, it was always thought that it's, once the march of time is going on, there is nothing you can do to stop it. But the evidence now shows that is not the case.
Yeah, and I think that's what makes this so exciting. Whatever age we are now, we have the potential to impact how we live the rest of our lives. And this whole measure of biological age, mine's I think the last time I checked it was 7 years younger than I am. But we both incorporate a lot of different lifestyle stuff and all the things you mentioned. Yeah. But it's also about thinking about the everyday. I do start every day with a cold plunge actually, but that's not practical for everyone. But thinking about what you put into your mouth, how much you exercise, sleep's huge. Such an important one. So is it possible to restore our NAD plus levels towards what they used to be in earlier years?
Yeah, it absolutely is. So when scientists realised that NAD was this powerful molecule that protects cellular health but unfortunately declines with age, the obvious question was, well, how do we keep our NAD levels high? And it's been demonstrated now in many, many different studies across everything from all different species, human studies, to demonstrate that you can boost NAD and restore it back to youthful levels.
Thanks for that, Shasta. So supplementation, which I think is a huge one to talk about. I think the supplement space in the UK is very unregulated. I'd say possibly even worse than the aesthetic space, and that's saying something. There's an awful lot of noise, an awful lot of marketing, and as you said, NAD plus has become a massive buzzword. And if you look at some of kind of the Google search data on NAD, it's crazy how much people are now searching for this. And I've certainly seen a real surge in the products coming to market, which on a medical and scientific level really worry me, because, for example, have any of you come across any of these injectable NAD plus products? Do you think they work from what you've seen online? So there's absolutely no way on a scientific level that they can work. So NAD plus is this huge molecule that cannot be absorbed from your blood vessels into your cells. Literally, scientifically, it's not possible. But we're seeing these products come to market with these huge claims, And instead, so people might think, okay, if I have it injected straight into my vein, surely that's the best way to go. And then you have these supranormal levels of NAD+, which doesn't belong in your bloodstream, which is why you tend to feel quite unwell when you have the infusions done. But there are clever ways and good ways to supplement, and I'd love to hear a little bit more about your research and about Nuchido.
Yeah, it's so interesting about the regulation in this space. I think most people don't realise that there is no legal requirement to do human clinical trials on supplements. So despite a lot of the claims that you see, it's like there isn't actually a study done on that finished product. So my background was actually in drug development, and I wanted to move into the supplement space. And when I left my job, my very credible job in drug development, to start a supplement company, everyone thought I had lost the plot. They were like, "You are crazy, you're going to be selling snake oil, it's not regulated." And I'm like, but no, this is where we need to change this. We need to start bringing out supplements and research and science that demonstrates that if you formulate things correctly and use the right molecules, supplements are actually really powerful. They're can be just as powerful as the effect that some drugs have in our body, because actually our bodies don't know what is the difference between a nutrient, a drug, a supplement. Any molecules going into our body all have a physiological effect. So when it comes to NAD and NAD supplementation, in terms of, first of all, I guess a key thing to say is you can't take pure NAD. So you can't put NAD in a capsule and swallow it. It doesn't work like that. It's not absorbed. This is when the supplements such as NMN have come out. Has anyone heard of NMN? Okay, so what NMN is a precursor. So it's like one of the raw materials that our body uses to make NAD, with the idea being that if the big NAD molecule cannot get into our cells, then let's give the cells more of the raw material that it needs to make NAD. So this is how NMN become popular. But what we've now found in terms of the science is the root cause of why our NAD actually declines as we get older. Because if something declines in the body, there's usually a reason. And the reason NAD declines is because the pathway in our cells that literally takes the raw material, like NMN, and turns it into the useful NAD molecule, that pathway declines. A specific enzyme that does that conversion declines as we get older. So what we now know is that actually just taking NMN is like ordering loads of raw material into a factory where the machines actually don't work, and expecting to get more NAD out the other end. So all the latest science now shows if you want to boost NAD efficiently, you actually need to address the root cause. You've got to actually switch back on that natural pathway in your body that makes NAD. So this is a big area of focus that I've been working on, certainly as a scientist and also with our company, to develop a supplement that actually does this. But not only does it, has also been proven in a human clinical trial to do it. So this is an area that I'm really passionate about. It's about how can we, take this buzzy NAD space, but actually create something that we know scientifically works and also has the evidence to back this up.
So, how does taking Nuchido enhance our longevity or boosting NAD+? But for me, I've been taking this and I pay for my Nuchido for, I can't even remember. Someone could probably tell me when I started subscribing, but years and years and years, and I swear by it. Yeah, 4 or 5 years, yeah. So I notice when I travel a lot, I get less jet lag. My sleep is better. My skin was always healthy, but my hair, my nails my nails grow like something crazy. My energy levels and also my mental energy levels feel enhanced. So how can we use Nuchido to boost our internal and our external health?
So it's, by the way, everything, thank you so much for the feedback there. But and also everything that you've mentioned there, so things like the sleep, the energy levels, the repair. Again, all of this stuff we get as anecdotal evidence from customers, but we've then done clinical trials to actually support it. So where most NAD companies and most supplement companies will leave it at the anecdotal, we've actually gone a step further and then done the trial. We've done the sleep study, we've done skin studies, we show a reduction in redness, inflammation, rosacea. And I think for me, looking at the studies and the effects that we have, the most exciting thing was looking at biological age. So we measured biological age in our clinical study of all the participants, and we actually demonstrated a reversal of biological age of 1.26 years in 28 days. So for me, that shows us that something that you are taking orally is actually having such an effect at the cellular level that it is having an impact on cellular health, that is having an impact across the entire body. Do you have a question on that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Is that purely on taking your supplement?
Yes. So this was a double-blind, placebo-controlled, randomized trial crossover study. So a gold standard in terms of a clinical study. It wasn't like give it to a couple of consumers and get their feedback. This was a full controlled trial, which is also published in a peer-reviewed journal.
So, in terms of integrating into our daily life, you've talked a bit about, because again, I think you've just been through a reformulation, which makes it easier than ever to take Nuchido. And also just to share with everyone where they can find you and where your stand is today as well, so if they want to come and have a chat to you.
Yeah, absolutely. If you want to come and have a chat, we've got a stand downstairs, and my lovely colleague Lucy, right on cue, and can help you, and I'll certainly be there as well. If you want to learn more from me, just follow me at Dr. Nicola Conlon on Instagram. I do a lot of talking about a lot of longevity things, mostly explaining the science behind them and demystifying the science, because it's quite a crazy space. So it's trying to get people to understand how they can implement it into their lives. But
yeah, and I mean your content's fantastic, because again, I mean I know the story of the reason you focused on NAD plus as your first target molecule, I guess, in what you've developed was because it impacts on pretty much every cellular hallmark of aging. NAD plus is involved in so many different processes that by improving our levels of that, you can address so much more. But you're a fount of knowledge on all things longevity and share so much about your longevity focused lifestyle. So definitely give Nicola a follow.
Thank you so much.
Thank you all for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you, my dear.